How are we doing, people? It's been a while since I've done one of these boxing film studies. Some of you may remember I did one not too long ago on Gerald McClellan, covering his biomechanical brilliance and also his brutal boxing IQ. And I felt that that video was fairly comprehensive, especially regarding punching mechanics. But understandably, there are still some questions that people have, and they want to know more information regarding certain elements. So that's what this video is. So in this video in particular, I'm going to be, I feel like, discerning between punching through the target and snapping your punches, while also going into more depth and providing another example regarding punching through the target. And so if we see on screen Mike Tyson versus Henry Tillman, and let's bear in mind that Mike Tyson is regarded as one of the most devastating punchers in boxing history, not only heavyweight boxing history. So I think using him as an example is justified in itself. So what we can see here is as Mike Tyson travels forward, so he is going forward, he's advancing towards Henry Tillman. He's actually bringing his weight backwards. You can see his right leg is here, just past this rope, and his head is very much over that back leg. And we can see he actually gets into quite a deep position over that right leg. And we can see here that he kind of eats a bit of Henry Tillman's jab, but that's not really what we're focusing on. What we can see is Mike Tyson very much over that back leg, very much in the back half of his stance. But what we can see here is that's all part of the process of Mike Tyson loading a right hand, which he then uses to accelerate forward. And we can see here that Mike Tyson has ripped his head from roughly around over here to now over here. And in the middle of that trajectory of Mike Tyson's head is Henry Tillman's head. And we can see once Mike Tyson has then transferred that weight to the left leg, essentially his front leg, that is the final position, the final destination of this right hand. And in the process of this right hand arriving at this final position here where Mike Tyson is well on his way to, it just rips through the head of Henry Tillman. And Mike Tyson gets there, his head arrived, then his fist arrived, and down goes Henry Tillman. Now we're going to get a better angle of this from a kind of bird's eye perspective, so we can kind of pick some things apart and focus on and zoom in. So we've already established that Mike Tyson travelling forward, and as you can see, he's getting closer into punching range, and we can see he does like a little shuffle forward just to reposition himself, because he's travelling forward towards Tillman, but then he plants his right leg. Head, I don't want to say it determines where your weight is, but it kind of does, but it's like it represents it. Where the head goes, the body follows, and the head is over the back leg, the right leg. And what this represents is the fact that the right side of Mike Tyson's stance is now loaded. So that means essentially any punch that accelerates to the other side from here is going to be a power punch, because it's carrying that body mass. And that mass, when it is accelerated, will result in a forceful punch, a powerful punch, depending, of course, on the amount of the mass that is moved and also the acceleration of it. But we can see that Mike Tyson's not playing around, so he's going to move a lot of body mass with a lot of acceleration. So we've established that the right side is loaded, so that right hand is going to be a power punch if it comes forward. And we can also see that Mike Tyson is extending his left leg, which we know is going to be the final position of this punch, on the other side of Henry Tillman's head. So we have the start of the punch, we have the finish of the punch, and we have the target, aka Henry Tillman's head, which is right in the sweet spot of the trajectory of this punch. And we can see that as Mike Tyson plants that left foot here, just off a screen for you guys, but he plants his left foot, and we can see that Mike Tyson's body weight starts to travel forward with that punch, and it just goes right through Henry Tillman's head as if it was made out of wet tissue. And we can see that Mike Tyson has finished here. You can see that head, body, most of his body weight is over that lead leg, that left leg. This is what the punch looks like when it finishes. But if we rewind, we can see that the punch started here. So you can just see there's a massive displacement of Mike Tyson's body weight going through the target with very high amount of acceleration, which just results in this devastating impact. And you can see it just completely shakes up Henry Tillman's head. You could count to 100 and he wouldn't get up. That is the result of punching through the target. However, we have this idea in boxing of snapping your punches. Essentially, many coaches here on YouTube, they will tell you that as soon as you make contact, you have to rip your hand back because we want to snap it and then back. Okay, so if I ask the question, what happens if Mike Tyson has just made contact here? What happens if he then snaps his punch back? Would he have the same effect? Personally, I doubt it. I think what makes Mike Tyson, what makes most punches very devastating, is when they're able to pull through, not just pull through, but rip through, tear through the target, and just completely obliterate, just annihilate the target by going through it. And maybe there's some merit in snapping your straight punches, because if we factor in here, I know this isn't a powerful jab by Mike Tyson, but if you can see his positioning here relative to Henry Tillman's, that would make more sense, at least in my head, to snap the straight punches, because the straight punches are going to follow a linear trajectory from where they're thrown. So it's going to look like that. Now that's going to be very difficult for you to get a lot of power in, a lot of force into that punch to inflict damage on the target, because how are you really supposed to bring your weight through it? Even with a straight right, it's very difficult to set yourself past the target because you're punching in a straight line. Whereas it'd probably make more sense to snap your straight punches, so as soon as they extend and make contact with the target, you bring it back. But then I think we have to recognize that the straight punches aren't necessarily the most damaging. You know, your jabs, your crosses, you can inflict damage with them, but it's not really, at least in the way I was taught boxing, it's not the primary use of those punches. Those are your setup punches. They can be damaging, especially when you get proficient at throwing them, but for the most part they work as setup punches to disrupt your opponent, to instigate a reaction from your opponent, which you can then use to capitalize on. But for the most part, these angular punches, because if you look at the trajectory of this right hand, it starts here and you'll find that it follows an angular trajectory, almost like a hemisphere, you know, like a semicircle. And we can just see here, it follows that angular pathway, which I feel lends itself much better to punching through the target. So just my musings on that. I think snap your punches, but that's maybe an idea that's better reserved for the straight punches, the jabs and the crosses. If you want to look to get power in the hooking punches, like the hooks and the short chopping overhand rights and punches of that kind of ilk, probably best to learn to punch through the target. And there's certainly some overlap, I think, but if you want to kind of streamline your boxing understanding, I'd advise you to do that. But hey, that's just my opinion, just my musings, just kind of exploring some new theories and addressing some common theories in boxing. So yeah, if we just watch this one more time, Mike Tyson travelling forward, brings his weight to the back half of his stance, through to the front half of his stance, through the target, and that is all she wrote. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you agree with this theory? Do you disagree? Yeah, leave it all down below. This is a place for rational discourse, and I like to hear people's the differences between people's boxing theories and how they were taught boxing and how they apply it. So let's learn from each other, let's keep it respectful, and ultimately let's enjoy the sport. So yeah, leave your feedback in the comment section below. And for now, people, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.